My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey, folks, welcome back. Today we've got Adil Virani zooming in from Mississauga. Now, Adil is a full-time real estate entrepreneur, and he focuses on the good old BRRRR method. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. I think I got all the R's in there, Adil, so help me out if I miss one. But that's what he focuses on. He does that with single-family homes all the way up to small multifamily properties, up to 9 units and around there. And he's based in Mississauga, but he's doing these deals in the city of Timmins, Ontario, which is quite a ways away. So Adil, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
I appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for having me. It's amazing.
Hey, so give us a little snapshot. Number one, what does your current portfolio look like at the end of 2024? Like how many properties, how many units do you have? And number two, just tell us why you love Timmins.
Beautiful. To answer your first question, Dave, as we end 2024, we still have about a month out, but right now, as it stands, I have about 23 properties consisting of 82 units in total
Nice.
in Timmins. And I have a small portfolio here in Niagara. That's where I started, about 6 units. But Timmins is my biggest portfolio there. And we have about another 4plex closing prior to the end of the year. So it's going to be close to 86 probably when we hit the year end. So that's been good. Now, to your second question, Dave, why Timmins? And I get that question all the time. So Timmins was never a thing where I ended up like, hey, researching the town Timmins and ending up there. It was just
well, for some of the folks that aren't familiar with it, just give us a big picture overview. Where is Timmins?
Of course, totally. Thanks, Dave. Yeah. The Timmins, I know a lot of your audience, Dave, would know where Sudbury is at least. So or Sudbury, like being 4.5, 5 hours north of Mississauga, where we are at, and Timmins is actually another 3 hours north of Sudbury. So you're talking about 7.5, a quarter to 8 hours drive if you're driving to Timmins. So it's quite a bit of
and for folks that we got some Americans listening to us as well, Adil. So that's basically from Toronto to where he's investing is about 8 hours away driving.
That is correct. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, that's about 8 hour one-way drive. So that's how far it is now. Without going into too much detail, Dave, of how I ended up there, it was just an unfortunate situation which I kind of turned around. But nonetheless, why Timmins was after I went to Timmins, I discovered a few factors. One of them is a heavy dependency on mining industry. And given the fact that we are moving towards more sustainable resources, energy-wise, EV batteries are one of the main items. And the raw material for EV batteries is nickel. And nickel is something that is mined in Timmins and the surrounding areas. So that definitely became, hey, we as a society are evolving more towards renewable resources. So we're not going back to fossil fuels. So if anything, it's going to be more mining of that material that we require as a raw material for something. So that's one. And the second thing is a heavy reliance on post-secondary education, which again, a lot of people say that would have taken a hit given certain government regulations. But so far, so good. There are 3 post-secondary education institutions there. And given the fact that it has it is known as a big hub, even though it's smaller compared to everything, big hub for the smaller communities around. So it covers about, even though its own population is about 40,000, it covers, or 45,000, I should say, it covers about 120,000 of the full diameter of the area.
Is that called the Ring of Fire there? Is that area the Ring of Fire?
Yes. You got that almost right. Yes, correct.
Perfect. Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of economic activity going on up there. Yeah, sometimes I grew up in a town like Timmins in British Columbia. So people from the biggest city don't really understand, what fuels a lot of the economy in the rest of the country is natural resources, right? Which is typically mined and taken out of remote areas like that, right? So
exactly.
Yeah, very, very cool. So you kind of stumbled across the market, then you realized it was a good market. When did you first invest there? When did you buy the first property there?
My first property, Dave, was I closed on it in November of 2021.
Wow. So you've built up a pretty substantial portfolio in the last 3 years.
Yes, correct, correct.
Very cool. So do you have amazingly deep pockets, Adil, or do you partner with people? How have you done so much in a relatively short period of time?
No, thanks, Dave. I definitely don't have deep pockets. I should clarify that. I come from to be honest, just a little bit without going too much deep, Dave. I was an international student myself back in 2010. I arrived in Canada as a 17-year-old. Went to Waterloo. So just to clarify, I don't have a ton of deep pockets there. Started from scratch. Now, how I ended up kind of growing that quick and that fast. The first few ones, Dave, was not no partnerships. It was I wanted to prove it to myself and prove it to as a kind of a testimony if I wanted to bring people in.
Yeah.
First, I would say first 8 properties, which is about at that point 26, 28 doors. I did it all by myself. So at that point, if you recall back in late 2021, the rules of the mortgage as we have the seasoning period right now, which is you have to wait out 12 months before you can refinance the property after buying it, in most lending institutions at least. That was not the case back in late 2021. So I was literally buying it, renovating it, and refinancing it, some of them for the first 3 or 4 properties within a matter of 2 months, 2 to 3 months.
Mm,
So I was literally going in, buying it, rent, and the thing is, Dave, for the first few deals, I was just lucky enough that I got deals which were not only just BRRRRs in which you get all your money out, but it was BRRRR plus some. So it actually
wow.
gave
You're
me
profiting.
like yeah, it
Yeah.
gave me about another 100,000, 120,000 per deal extra on
Nice.
top of the capital I put in. So
Yeah.
that was a catalyst movement, I would say, that allowed me to kind of now take on more projects with that capital base being wider. It
Mhm.
was not until maybe I should say early or mid 2023 to late 2023, so about a year ago, where I started kind of entertaining the partners. And since then, I've worked with 2 partners. And both have I like to work with very few people rather than kind of having like a pool of 30 people I'm working
Yeah.
with. And both of them are just kind of coming again and again. So we have done multiple deals since then.
They're rinsing and repeating. No, that makes sense. So, Adil, tell me a little bit about how you're managing these properties and these renovations from afar because you live 8 hours away.
Yeah.
I assume you're not the guy slapping on the hard hat and swinging hammers and stuff like that. So, how do you manage all of this from a distance?
No, definitely, Dave. You wouldn't want me swinging the hammer for sure. I'm
Me
not. I'm
neither,
not.
man. Me neither.
But definitely, that's a question I get a lot, Dave. Like whoever I speak to, managing it. I think a lot of it was heavy lifting at the start when the first or the second project was taking place of creating my own, for the lack of better words, boots on the ground team. Now, these people were not. I want to clarify when I say boots on the ground, I'm not meaning these are the people who are on my payroll. These are still people who have their own
Yeah,
gigs
they're
and
contractors, right?
they contractors.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I made a ton of mistakes. And at the end of the day, I think about a year and a half ago, I realized that I at least have two or so projects going on at any point in time. At that point, I was still working full time. I just quit about 6 months ago from my work. So if I go full time into it, what if I had my full payroll, like a team which on my payroll, and I can
Yeah.
always find projects. So until about 6 to 8 months, about start of this year, I should say, January of this year, I ended up making my own team. And that team is actually from Southern Ontario. That actually for project by project, they're on my payroll. I send them. They're most of the time up in Timmins. They stay at the project. They hammer the project out, and they come back. Their families are here. That makes it very nice because otherwise it gives them the motivation to come back sooner. So they're completing the work
Mm.
much more quickly so that they have to come back, and that's the only job they're focusing on, right? Uh, in terms of managing it, Dave, again, this is the contractors, but I still have to GC it, or someone on my team has to GC it.
Yeah.
I myself am now good. Now the portfolio is big enough that I can justify flying to Timmins because Timmins is an airport.
Mhm.
So I usually fly once a month to Timmins. Usually it's a day or two trip. I have my own place there I bought. So like now I have my own permanent place there as well whenever I go. And I go look at there are at least 4 or 5 projects going on. I go tour the projects one day, and the other day I have meetings lined up with some of the city officials and just trying to stay in touch and trying to see if we can solve the city's problem, housing problem together. Um, and then and then 2 days after I hop on the flight and I'm back. It's 50-minute flight to from Pearson to Timmins and back. So that's how I've been doing it. Now I can do it. Otherwise, I was driving back and forth
Yeah,
uh,
that's a
once
lot
a
of
month,
drive
which
time.
was
Uh,
sorry.
that's a lot of drive time. That's for sure.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of drive. But I have kind of let's put it this way. I've earned my stripes. I've kind of done a lot of driving. My
Well,
car
it's a
already
good time
has.
to listen to podcasts.
Sorry.
It's a good way to listen to podcasts. Uh,
I know. That's
yeah.
fine.
So Adil, very, very interesting. I love the fact that you've created your own team
Yes.
and you kind of ship them up there. You house them in one of the, so they're basically living in the project that they're working on.
Correct.
So
Correct.
probably not living in the
Unless
lap, living in
um
not living in the lap of
no.
luxury, but they're okay.
Yeah.
And they're cranking out the work. They're motivated to get her done quickly so they can get back to Mississauga and see their families.
Correct. You got it.
Yeah.
Correct.
But you're working on multiple projects at the same time. So how does that work? Like, do you have more than one team or is it just one team?
Yeah, so I have about, let's put it this way, I have one person who is, let's say, the lead,
Yeah.
who kind of is the GC, kind of put
Yeah.
it that way, who is below me, who I just talk to this one person, and he goes ahead and hires out people. So if we need 5 projects on the go, he will go ahead and hire.
He'll
He's
find all these people in Toronto,
in
basically for
Toronto,
us. Yeah.
exactly, Toronto, yeah, yeah.
But isn't there a shortage of skilled workers these days? Isn't that what everybody's complaining about? How are you guys able to find all of these people and haul them all the way up to Timmins and do all that
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
stuff?
So most of the specialized trades, Dave, so let's say what I would put that as electricians or let's say masonry work, that kind of stuff is really hard to find. And people who are here wouldn't travel up there, even though
Right.
if you give them like a rate which is twice their rate here, right? And
Yeah.
I don't even want to do that. So I have for specialized trades like that, I have connections within Timmins. I have like 5 electricians, let's say, on speed dial if need be. And I usually the jobs I know like there's a relationship being made over the last 3 years with them that they know that if a job is coming from me, there's it's different than it's coming from someone who they haven't worked with before.
Yeah.
So for specialized trades, I must clarify that I don't have specialized trades going from here to there. Usually the trades that go from here are like flooring, taping, drywalling, mudding, that kind of stuff, which is easily it's not something that requires huge licensing or that kind of stuff. That's for electricians and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, smart. So basically you're able to find labor, basic labor, like these are not specialized workers. They're
Correct.
and you take them from Toronto to Timmins. Uh, are they mostly newcomers to the country that this is like a really good gig for them kind of thing? This is way better than working at Tim Hortons kind of thing. Is that
Fortunately enough, one of the head guys who I personally speak to, he's the one who has done a ton of work for my aunt here in Mississauga. She's in a constructing of the franchise locations a lot. So
yeah,
he has done a lot of work. He's close to his kind of retirement, so he's
yeah,
good and he knows his context and stuff. So he goes out and hires some newcomers, some of the people who are not completely newcomers, but let's say they have 4 or 5 years industry experience and just want like a side gig. Let's say they have a 3-day job somewhere. They want another 3 days to fill up their schedule. So he will take him there and they will just come back, let's say, after 4 days or something. So they're doing a lot of back and forth. So it's a mixture of everything. And also, while you ask, Dave, I also want to point out that we are working together with Northern College up there
mm,
uh, to come up with a program right now where potentially co-op students or anybody who's in that industry of kind of construction style, they do have certain programs. We are willing to kind of employ them as a co-op, which kind of gives
nice.
us the full pipeline. If let's say 1 out of 10 people decide to stay with us, it's good enough that way.
That's really smart, man. Adil, hats off to you because that's one of the biggest challenges people have is finding help. You've kind
Correct.
of cracked the code there because you're not trying to have a team that's the same all the time. But you've worked it so that you can have people coming in and out, and it doesn't affect you. Like
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really really smart, man. Yeah.
Of course, there are problems, Dave. Like
Of
I
course.
must
Yeah.
say, like, it's of course,
But the smart thing is you've downloaded that to the guy that the
it's
GC guy that
yes,
has to
yes.
deal with all.
I pay him well for sure to take care of my headaches. My day-to-day, Dave, is or when I go to Timmins, it's just literally when I'm visiting the property is more for letting people know that I can jump on a flight and come. I'm not kind of away.
Yeah.
But it's mostly kind of high-level stuff where I'm trying to create optimization within the portfolio by speaking to the right person within city, within utility department or whatever that might be. So creating that connection in the small city.
Yeah. No, that's really, really good. And Adele, what was I going to ask you? So as far as like actual property management, not the construction side of things, but now dealing with tenants and toilets and all that kind of stuff
Yes.
with all the units you've got up there, have you created an in-house property management or do you outsource that as well?
As it stands right now, the straightforward answer is no, it's not in-house. It's outsourced right now. However, that's something next on our list. Not something priority, but like as soon as we hit 100 units, that was my goal. Once we do that, then I think we'll
Mhm.
look into doing it in-house. I have had a ton of problems on the property management side, Dave, because there are not a lot of options up north, and
Yeah.
I have a very specific way of doing things. Sometimes people don't like being dictated how things need to be done, and I understand that. But I think it will give me a lot of more of the freedom of doing the things that I want once I do that. But I've been lucky enough, to be honest, to find someone who I'm currently working with who is willing to take as much feedback as I'm willing to give
Oh,
and
that's great.
kind of
Yeah.
working as someone who was potentially in-house, to be honest.
Yeah, I have a friend who used to have a pretty big portfolio. She's from Vancouver, but all of her properties were in Ontario and around Thunder Bay and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
She had like 500 units at one
Whoa.
point, and she was just so frustrated with crappy property management. She went out there, spent a year, and built out her own property
Yeah,
management company to take care
yeah.
of business, and that's how she had to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. And one thing, Dave, on that pointer, I want to mention that recently we have started working with the city. So a lot of people don't like these type of tenant profiles, but we have kind of accepted it with open arms. People who are a little marginalized and
Oh,
specifically certain part of our portfolio, we are looking because there's a big homelessness problem up north.
yeah.
And city is willing to do whatever they can to solve that. So we are housing in some of our units, some part of our portfolio, signing leases directly with the city. And cities putting like or subletting for the lack of a better word, these individuals in. In those cases, the management, most of it is taken care directly by the city.
So the city fixes up all the damages these guys and
Correct.
gals do to the properties and
Correct.
deal
And the
with all
rents
the
are
noise
guaranteed
complaints.
kind of because the city of Timmins is the tenant. Let's put it that way.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, as long as they aren't too close to your regular tenants, because I can see that
Yes.
causing a lot of
Ye-
problems.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, definitely.
it's interesting. In the States, they've got what are called Section 8
Section 8,
housing.
exactly.
So you're
Exactly.
almost
Very
doing your
similar.
own version of that.
Very similar. Very similar. As you were aware, Dave, in Section 8, the rents are higher than market rents because it's a different kind of profile you're housing. Same thing here. The rents are higher. And you get the costs are covered, kind of the renovations if they break whatever they break. And some of the property management is taken care directly by the worker that the person is represented by.
What about eviction? Like, is because Ontario's infamous for just being a huge pain to evict. What about eviction with these kind of this tenant profile?
Yeah, so essentially what happens because the lease is directly with the city of Timmins,
Yeah.
the actual tenant themselves is on like a sublease or they have their own internal program, which they call system of care. There's a big thing that like how Section 8 is in US, it takes a lot for people to get approved to come in that program.
Okay.
So if they mess up, which they will,
They,
some of them, let's say 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 will mess up. But if they mess up and we have proof, which we capture in cameras or anything drug related or anything like that, and we provide it to city, city has a deal or a contract with them that they are out. They're out. So now city puts in someone else and it
wow. So
doesn't
they
go
can
through LTV.
bypass that whole
Yeah, it
thing.
bypasses that LTV part because the tenant
Oh,
on
yeah.
the lease is the city of Timmins, and
Yeah.
that's what the LTV cares about.
Very smart. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's Brilliant, Adil. Awesome. So what are the plans for the new year? What are you up to in 2025? Where do you see things going?
So things are kind of already have a few plans lined up, Dave. Already have in terms of what's my bread and butter, kind of anything from single family to 10 unit. Have at least 3 deals lined up to close in the first 2 to 3 months of the next year. That'll add another 15 units or so to the portfolio. And then getting and kind of gearing up onto a bigger stuff. We have recently closed on with myself and a couple of partners. A high school we bought in close to North Bay. So North Bay, just for people who are listening, is not as far as Timmins. Let's say if you're putting Timmins at 8 hours, North Bay is let's say 5.
Yeah.
We just bought a high school close to a town there. It's a retirement community, and we're converting that into a 62-unit apartment building.
Oh, very
So
cool.
so when you ask what's next year, I think next year that will be something that will keep me busy.
I think it will. Adil, if people would like to connect with you, where should they go?
They can reach out to me on Instagram. It's Adil Virani _REI. I will try my best to reply. I am a little bit, I should apologize. I'm not as active as I used to be, but I'm planning on that as a next couple of weeks roll in to getting more active and share more deals that I'm working on.
Well, that's okay because people are going to be seeing this in the new year anyhow. So it's all good. Awesome, Adil. Well,
Beautiful.
thanks for being on the show.
Appreciate it, Dave. Thank you for
All
having
right,
me.
everybody, take care, and we'll see
Take
you
care.
on the next episode. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.